you have a significant advantage. You can choose where the fight takes place. And if you're competent in the stand-up, which Khabib is definitely competent in the stand-up, so you are adequate in the stand-up but overwhelming when it gets to the ground. You can present problems with a guy standing up, which cases problems the guy has to deal with, the striking aspects, which open up the takedowns.
I wholeheartedly agree with you, but I'll go a little further. Whenever someone asks me, what are the programs, what do you look for when you see a guy dominating fights? What makes someone go in the right directions with their training and their fighting itself? I always say there's three things. If you show me a fighter who can, 1, dominate the setups, 2, dominate the pace of the fight, and 3, how can I phrase this? Dominate the simple direction of the fight. 3 things. Dominate the setups, dominate the pace, dominate the direction. You show me a fighter who can do those 3 things, and I'll show you a fighter who can win 95% of the fights he gets into. Dominate the setups, dominate the pace, dominate the direction. Think about someone like Khabib, or anyone who comes from a strong wrestling or judo, jiu-jitsu with takedowns based fighters. They're always going to be able to dominate the direction. They determine whether it goes down to the ground or whether it stays standing. Khabib always dominates the pace of the fight. Once you're on the ground, you're on top. The other guy's just reacting to what you're doing, trying to get back up to his feet, etc., etc. You're dominating pace. If there's one weakness that Khabib has, is he's not as strong at dominating the setups to get to those areas where he can dominate pace and etc., etc. If he's going to lose a fight, it's going to be in that area. And Conor, more than anything else, is a guy who dominates the setups. You said it before. The kicks are probes. They're not kicks. He's not trying to hurt you with the kicks. He's probing. He hurts you with this.
Yeah.
Okay? So Conor's skill is he's a master of dominating setups, especially in the standing position. But Khabib's mastery out of those 3 critical areas for domination in all forms of fighting is he's incredibly dominant in determining the direction of the fight and the pace of the fight. That's why he never gets tired in his fights. He's got a very high work rate, but he never gets tired. You never see him just completely shattered, despite the fact he's working hard the whole time.
And despite the fact that he significantly weakens himself to make 155 pounds, which apparently he's done far better now. He had a real nutritionist heading into this camp, and it was much easier for him to cut the weight.
I'd be fascinated to see him fight at 170.
Well, that's a plan.
Yeah.
Apparently, that was a plan, and Woodley was joking around about it, saying he'll send him nutritionists. He'll say, keep his psycho ass down at 155. Was his exact.
That's funny.
Was his exact quote. Yeah. Yeah, I
but
think.
Yeah, with regards to your point before, you're saying this core combat skill, the most important one that you as a commentator look for when you look at fighters. Can you determine? You put grappling skill as the number one thing, whether it be wrestling, whether it be sambo, whether it be jiu-jitsu, or what have you. I would go further and say, there's 3 things that I look for: who dominates the setups, who dominates the pace, who dominates the direction.
Now, what are your thoughts about strength and conditioning for mixed martial arts fighters?
That's a huge question.
But the question is, what takes precedent? Does skill training take precedent? There's several schools of thought, and one of them would be, one of the more interesting ones is Nick Kursan and Marv Marinovich, that camp. Mm-hmm. They believe that you already know how to fight, and that what the camp really should be about is just radical strength and conditioning to the point where...
That's a mixed question there.
Okay.
Are you talking about a fight camp? Or are you talking about fight training over the year? There's a big difference.
Let's talk about a fight camp in specific.
Okay. Average fight camp is around 6 to 8 weeks, and the longest you ever heard is like a 10 to 12 weeks. That's a very, very long fight camp. How much physiological change can you affect in the body in 6 to 8 weeks?
You could tighten everything up. You can certainly increase your endurance, your threshold, your ability to work.
How much could you increase your VO2 max in 6 weeks?
It's a good question. A few percentage points, I believe.
I think considerably less than that.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
How much could you increase your vertical jump in 6 weeks?
Not much.
Not much at all. Not a big believer in the idea that you're going to create big, significant, fight-changing physiological changes in 6 to 8 weeks. It's not really my experience. But I can show someone a single technique which can have a direct impact on a fight. I can show them that in 5 minutes. Okay. I'm not going to claim to be a medical expert who has a deep understanding of these things, but my experience in coaching is that physiological changes take time, and you're not going to get it done in a fight camp. Yes, you can make physiological changes over a year, 2 years, absolutely. George went up a weight division. Okay, but it took quite a bit of preparation to do so. It didn't happen in 6 weeks.
What kind of strength training was he doing to do that? I know he's very involved in gymnastics. He likes a lot of that.
George's primary physical training outside is gymnastics. He loves it. He also, for a time, did Olympic weightlifting. Less so now than before, but there was a time that was a big part of it. Recently, he started taking on training in water with various fins, et cetera, to increase resistance.
Oh, okay.
And he's quite a fan of that. But the truth is, George goes through cycles. And, boredom is a factor here. You get bored with a certain kind of physical activity and you want to try something new.
Right.
And so he's gone through various cycles. I can tell you this. George's strength has not significantly changed despite the various changes in physiological training. Like when he did Olympic lifting, he wasn't massively stronger than when he did regular weightlifting or when he did swim training. I don't feel like, okay, one made him stronger than the other. Okay. There's so many interesting questions in the one you just asked. Okay, do I believe that strength is important? Absolutely. Okay, anyone who says that strength doesn't make a difference in a fight is just straight up ignoring the obvious facts. There's a reason why men don't fight women, because there's massive strength differences. There's a reason why there's weight categories, because there's big strength differences between heavyweight and lightweight. Okay, strength makes a difference. The proof of that is simply easy to observe. Why do people take anabolic steroids? Because they know that strength makes a difference. Okay, there's a reason why they're illegal, because they do change the outcome of fights. So yes, strength is extremely important. The question is, how are you going to build it? And are you going to do it in camp? Is your fight camp going to be based around strength? That's a risky strategy. Can you really get that much stronger in 6 weeks? I've always believed that the whole idea of fight camp is to prepare an already well-trained athlete to get around the problem of one individual. It's programming one individual to solve the complex problem that another individual presents. It's kind of like preparation for an exam, so to speak. And for me, the whole thing, every fight camp is motivated by two very simple questions. How are you going to win this fight, and how are you not going to lose this fight? The entire structure of the camp is based around that. And almost all of it has to do with tactics and techniques rather than changes in the physical body.
Now, when George is in off camp, when he's out of camp, is that when he would...
That's a period of skill acquisition. You're trying to acquire new skills.
So that's when he would... I know he's notorious for taking trips to Brazil to work jiu-jitsu.
That's when you do your experimentation. You bring in different perspectives, a different person, and you say, hey, this is interesting, this has potential, this doesn't really have much potential, and you start changing things up.
Now, do you have that same approach with all the fighters that you've worked with?
It depends on the context. Are they mixed martial artists? Do they train with me full-time? Right. Are they part-timers? It would depend on the context. I can answer with regards to the squad.
Yeah, but I mean, what I was going to bring up is Weidman. Weidman's approach, coming from that elite wrestling background and then developing a lot of significant mixed martial arts skills. He is in an unusual situation right now, right? Yeah. Where does he stand in terms of future opponents? Where's he at right now?
That's a tough question to answer. Chris, I think, had probably one of the most meteoric rises into world championship level. He literally beat twice in a row the guy that at that time was considered by most people to be the greatest of all time. His run up to that was incredible. I'm sure you commentated many of those fights.
Sure.
You saw this kid who
It's an animal.
The time frame with which he went from obscurity to world championship level is incredibly short.
And undefeated.
Yeah, it was insane what he was doing. So there was this incredible meteoric rise, and then there was a short period after that where he appeared to be crushing great former champions like Lyoto Machida, Vita Belfort. He wasn't just beating them; he was just
Smashing them.
I mean, he was incredibly impressive. And then I think people were shocked by what appeared to be an unbeaten record, and then suddenly 3 losses in a row.
And catastrophic losses.
Yeah, they were
Getting smashed by Luke Rockhold, getting KO'd by a flying knee from Yoel Romero, and getting dominated by Gegard Mousasi, and then all the controversy that led to that stoppage.
So it was